There are four major chemicals in the brain that influence our happiness. The acronym for them is DOSE: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Our experience and feelings that may or may not release any or all of the DOSE neurochemicals make us happy, which eventually makes us want to get more of it on a biological and on a mental level. Dopamine is what most of us would call the happiness drug. However, there are some misconceptions about that. Dopamine is actually more involved with the anticipation to an event or a thing than the actual happiness feeling that we expect to get when we get to that event or a feeling. So for example, when we miss someone, we have an anticipation to see them again, which can be a stronger sensation than the actual event of meeting them. The same thing can be said about sexual arousal. The anticipation of the penetration at times can be more arousing than the intercourse itself. And of course, food. Ordering a pizza or any takeout creates an anticipation and expectation which lasts all the way up to the first bite, which is always the best. And from then on, most non-conscious eaters will be completely automatic. It means the anticipation itself was even better. Oxytocin is the neurochemical that has allowed us to become social creatures. It makes us feel empathy, which helps us feel close and bonded to others when it's released. This is the chemical that women have when they give birth. This is also the chemical that we are lacking when becoming teenagers or moving into a more introverted lifestyle. Serotonin is the good mode neurochemical, but it's also the bad mode one. It's actually a regulator. Interestingly, 80% of serotonin exists in the gut and is governed by the state of hunger. This is also the reason why when we get hungry, we get angry. The endorphins are responsible for masking pain or discomfort and are associated with the fight or flight response that we got from being a mammal. Endorphins help us power through different experiences in life. They are also released when we exercise, like after a run, and give us the great after-workout feeling. Together, the DOSE chemicals create different desirable brain states. So what's the best way to get more of these good things without taking any drug shortcuts, without decades of meditation, or being in a constant good physical shape? Recent scientific breakthroughs allow us to better understand the neural basis of the positive human states of happiness, love, gratitude, and so forth. Better understanding also means that we can find workarounds to stimulate the neural pathways of these states. And simply put, with proper practice and minimum effort, we can increasingly trick our neural machinery to cultivate positive states of mind. But before we get into the how, we need to deeply understand three influential details about the brain. Fact 1. As the brain changes, the mind changes, for better or for worse. Now, what's the difference between the brain and the mind? In this video, we will treat the brain as the actual physical structure containing all the brain cells and different zones of the brain. We will also treat the mind as the collection of the personality, the logic, and the emotions of the person. So brain equals physical matter, mind equals person. Back to fact number 1. As the brain changes, the mind changes. For example, more activation in the left prefrontal cortex is associated with more positive emotions. So, as there is greater activation in the left front portion of your brain relative to the right, there is also greater well-being. That's because the left prefrontal cortex is responsible for controlling the negative emotions. If you add more blockage on the negative, you immediately get more of the positive. This means that if we activate the left prefrontal cortex in any other way, we will get the same effect. Another example is people who have stress in their life, and I'm talking about any sort of stress. Cortisol is immediately released, which literally eats away the hippocampus, which is the part of the brain that's very engaged in visual spatial memory, as well as memory for context and setting. Scientific research shows that adults who have had that type of history of stress have lost up to 25% of the volume of their hippocampus and are now less able to form new memories. Fact number 2, as the mind changes, the brain changes. So, if we want more of these neurotransmitters to flow naturally, we have to practice receiving them and let the body naturally widen their accessibility to us. We have to make a decision to rewrite ourselves. It begins by pairing our negativity with realistic expectations. For example, instead of judging ourselves for failure, misconduct, not following through or anything else, we can redirect our attention to creating the habit of stopping, observing, and looking for anything good in our life. Doing this 3 times a day for a month will rewire the brain completely. It will reduce stress and ease the mind as those neurochemicals naturally flow. The changes will happen first temporarily, and with time, using the what fires together wires together rule, will create a longer binding. This is why in the beginning, creating this habit is difficult, just like starting to exercise. In the beginning, all the excuses come up, and after a while, we get into the habit until we can't be without it. This happens with everything in our life. When people consciously practice gratitude, they will get a flow of reward-related neurotransmitters like dopamine. Research shows that when gratitude is practiced, we experience a general brightening of the mind. Here's another example of how changes in mental activity can produce changes in neural activity. When we are shown a picture of someone we love, our brain becomes more active in the reward center. The rush of love correlates with activation of the part of the brain. When we stop looking at the picture, the reward center goes back to sleep. This is an example of a temporary effect. However, the effect can also be permanent. What flows through the mind sculpts the brain. As the mind flows through the brain, meaning when any neural activity, including our thoughts, our dreams, our emotions, or anything fires in the brain in particular patterns, it changes the neural structures within the brain itself. This literally means that busy regions in the brain, according to the activity, create more and more new connections with each other or strengthen the existing connections that are already there. The connections between neurons are also known as synapses. So, synapses that are very busy and have lots of activity will get stronger. They get more sensitive, they start building out more receptors, and new synapses form right next to them, as well as allowing easier binding from them to others. In other words, we get addicted to thinking, feeling, and acting as ourselves. And this again is the mind. Scientific study, for example, has found that people who practice some sort of a meditative practice have measurably thicker brains in certain key regions of the brain. The first is the insula, which is involved in tuning into the deeper feelings. Now, of course, this is not much of a surprise for people who practice a lot of meditation. And this takes us into the third and last fact. You can use the mind to change the brain, to change the mind for the better. Let me say that again. Use the mind to change the brain, to change the mind, which is what we're doing right here. This is also known as self-directed neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is when we change our brain. Self-directed neuroplasticity means doing it intentionally with clarity, consciousness, and some basic skills. The key is awareness, which is a controlled attention, using our will and focus like a spotlight and shine on things within our awareness. We can also use our awareness to pluck the weeds of our mind. For example, if we rest our attention routinely on what we dislike or regrets from our past, our failures, our relationships, then we are building out the neural pathways to those type of thoughts and feelings all the time. So if we focus and place our attention on things which we're grateful for, like the sun, our loved ones, the abundance of the world, the better parts of us, the things we get done and not the things that we don't have time for, then we're actually building a very different neural pathways. The problem, of course, is that most of us don't have the best of control over our attention. We are bombarded with stimuli that the brain has not evolved to handle. So many advertisements, commercials, Facebook, emails. So gaining more control over attention one way or another is crucial through meditation, mindfulness, breaks at work, or simply practice gratitude. I'm going to give you 4 different methods to get the ball rolling. The first method that worked for me is to say each morning before my legs touch the ground, I know I'm going to have a wonderful day. I know, not I want, not I wish, really focus on that. Another method is to savor the positive experiences. Now, what I mean is that when you do get a good experience, and we all do, savor it, make it last. Close your eyes and deeply and intensely feel it throughout your entire body, embracing the feeling it has. Let the energy of the good experience enter each cell of the body and allow that feeling to run all over the place. For example, when you taste something good, close your eyes and savor the flavor. This will profoundly change the experience. You will eventually become one of those that are vibrating with reality itself. The next method is to let a good fact become a good experience, to upgrade the normal experience into a good experience. Many times in life, we simply take things for granted. Waking up to our loved ones, seeing a beautiful flower blossom, checking an item off our to-do list. All of these things are normal things that we do every day and we forget to appreciate them. This is also a good opportunity to make us simply feel good. As we upgrade our human experience, sense your intent that this experience is sinking into yourself. This can be done using visualizations, like being nourished from prana or being surrounded by a ball of pure bright light, a long and relaxing breath, or just to know that this positive experience is now sinking into you and changing the neural pathways in your brain. Practice any or all of these methods long enough to completely rewrite your brain. Now, you've probably noticed that you're already changing faster and faster over the last few years. You're already doing wonderful work on your self-awareness. Practicing these things that I've recommended here are simply going to take you to the next step into the 5D world, which you're already pacing there, only this will make it quicker. So, my name is Ray Maor, and thank you very much for watching this video. If you like it, please like it or share it. And I'll see you in my next video. Namaste.